Hi, Julie. So good to see you.
Hi, my dear.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good.
Hey, Lori, nice to see you. I was looking at our registration sheet, and we have 41 leaders registered for our Monday meetings, which is amazing. And with the two people I have just let into from the waiting room, that's four of us here.
Yeah.
It's
And
good. Hey,
I forgot to post today. I promised myself I would post every week in the groups, and yes.
I appreciate you posting, Julie. That was hi, Nikki. Hi, Sandra. My focus was not on what you didn't do. My focus was just on the numbers. Yeah. So 41 is a great number, and 5 of you here is gorgeous, and we get to be a stand so that every leader gets to be in their leadership. Okay. So thank you for those of you who created that list of 41, and I'm holding space that they all fit on the Zoom screen at one point in time. We will see them all here. So happy Monday, everybody. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Happy Monday. Because we have just a few thumbnails on the screen today, we probably have time for it. Leaders, introduce yourselves. Let's do it off mic. Who are you? Contract and stretch.
I am Tina Turner. I'm a powerful, passionate, creative leader.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
I am Shakira, and I am a powerful, present, loving leader.
Oh, yeah. I love that you guys are leading with your stretch. It's even better. Even better than it used to be. Sandra.
I am Tina Turner, a committed and authentic leader.
Yes, you are.
Heck yeah.
I'm Flashdance. I'm a powerful, authentic, loving leader.
I am J-Lo. I'm an open, courageous, passionate woman.
Yes, you are.
Yes. Sherry, look at this movement you started, starting with stretch.
Mhm.
Sharon, introduce yourself, leader.
Don't let anyone mute you.
Use your voice, baby. That's right.
I am a butterfly, a wise, compassionate nurse leader.
You
Okay.
are.
Okay. Sweet. So who would like to give us a very brief recap on last week's leadership training? What did we talk about? What tool were we working through last week?
I have a recap.
Choice.
Choose.
I have a recap. It's one word and it's all that it's needed. Sandra, yes. Beautiful. Is there anything anyone else would like to add? Very.
I just want to add that everything that you're giving here and what's created with each one of you it's a highlight for my week, and I use it, and I've been able to use it to support so many people, and it's helped me, supported me to navigate and support others. So thank you very much.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Sherry. So tell us, how did being at Choice serve you this week?
Well, being at Choice just served me because I realized that I am making a choice every time, right? And so every time everything comes up into my life. And so I'm just navigating an issue in family. And so just be able to have those tools to be able to support the family in this decision-making time, that's been huge.
Beautiful. I love it. I was sharing with Lori over the weekend that I exercised being at Choice yesterday because I woke up from a really clear, so clear that it took me a minute to realize I was actually asleep. And I decided I was going to be rattled by that for like 30 minutes. And I didn't like how that felt. And then I decided that I didn't like how that felt. And I was like, oh, wait, I get to choose. I get to choose. I don't have to feel this. I get to choose how I feel. I get to choose. And so the day ended up turning out to be great. So yeah, we can create a whole day out of a choice and not realize it if we're not paying attention, right? Beautiful. Yeah, Sherry.
I've also just realized how my driftiness how that's influenced the family, right? And so me being able to step out of that is also giving a space for others to step out.
Beautiful. What did you step into?
I step into leadership, responsibility, and commitment.
Beautiful. Yeah. Always great to remind ourselves, guys, what are we doing? Not what we didn't do last week, what we didn't finish, what, blah, 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 what I get to stop doing, all the punitive stuff. Great. Be in awareness. Awesome. And then what are you doing? Where are you going with that? What are you creating? What are you choosing? Stepping out of the drift. Cool. Into what? Stopping this behavior. Great. What are you picking instead? Right? Always great to keep that as your dialogue so that you remind yourself of the forward momentum that you're taking and not spend time in the punitive nature of it. Right? Okay. So yeah. Where are we going? What are we creating? What are we choosing? What leadership tool are we working on? What distinction are we stepping into? Yeah. What's my stretch? What way of being am I? What am I in this moment? And where am I headed in the next one? Always great to be reminded of that. Okay, beautiful. Thanks. Sandra, do you have something? You're laughing.
I do have something. This weekend I was faced with unpleasant situations, let's just say, with the business that I'm in. And, it was like, I had to make a decision on, how to respond to this guest and what to offer, in exchange for their concerns. And I'm like, I'm gonna, like, I was like, with the indecision and whatever. And then like, I thought, I should ask my husband, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why am I like choosing to ponder on this, to worry about this? That was the choice that I was making. And I'm like, heck, this is what I'm going to do. Boom. And I'm just going to do it. And then that was it. Like, just did it. It's like when you add like speed to making that decision, then it's like it just felt like a weight got off my shoulders, and so then same with like there was this person that I was going to hire. And I was like not feeling right about this person, had an interview online, but, didn't feel like saying no. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, you will start next week, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, no. So I'm like, I get to make this choice now, not like a month from now after she starts. So, like just now before the call, I'm like, I'm so sorry, this is not going to work out, blah, 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 just so that, it's like, if you know that there's a choice that you want to make, don't delay. Why are you going to delay it? And then that's going to take real estate space on your head, on your heart, like, why am I doing this and whatever. It's like, just go for the choice. Go for the choice that your gut is telling you, right?
Yeah, definitely follow your gut. And speed, right? So speed is speed, and you get to trust your gut with that speed. And as soon as you feel an instinct, go with it. When you pause to question about how you felt when that instinct came, you're now going backwards. So if you don't have an instinct, don't act and be reckless and create havoc. Wait until you have the instinct. And then when you have it, act. So yes, speed, and speed is a different tempo for each of us, but speed is not slow. As soon as you start thinking about your pace, you're backwards. Yeah, love it, Sandra. So good. So good. Okay, loves. I would like to start talking about another tool. It's going to take us a few sessions to get through, and that's good because I love these juicy, full, unveiling conversations that we have. Before we dive in, does anyone have a question, a brief question that I can answer? No? Ready to go?
I hope it's brief. If it's not, like, what you just said, everything that was just said really landed in an immediate situation for me. And I know that I'm in psychological assessment versus following my gut. Like, my gut has kind of already spoken multiple times on this in the last few days. And yeah, I'm definitely in psychological assessment, and there seems to be like these holdups, and like I could just make my choice, but like I'm going to pay a lot of prices to make the choice. Mm-hmm. And so I'm having trouble deciding if I'm being reckless or not.
Okay, great. Let's iron it out, because the answer's already there. You don't need me. So your gut already spoke multiple times, right? So if our gut speaks, and it's truly our gut and our intuition and that quiet voice inside of us, is that our answer? Just generally speaking, not on your particular topic, Nikki, but is that our answer when our intuition and our gut is saying clearly?
I think so.
Okay, great. Yep. The answer is yes. Okay, great. So then I heard you say there seems to be all these holdups.
Yeah.
There seems to be all these holdups. What racket is that?
Powerlessness.
Yeah, there seems to be all these red lights when I'm trying to get to work on time. Okay, that's powerless. So as soon as we're in a racket, are we able to make a decision from being inside a racket? No, not a good one anyway. Not one that's going to serve us. Yep. Advised not to. Right. So as soon as we're in a racket, we can spin in that racket till the cows come home and then label it psychological assessment. But the point is, the racket is speaking over your intuition.
That makes sense.
Okay. Third piece I want to offer you. There's always consequences to every choice. When you choose to have a child who completely lights up your world, you choose to give away freedom at some level. When you choose not to have a child, so that you can be in service in the world and be free, you choose to give up a lineage. There's no wrong choices, but there's always a consequence to all of them. You got to be willing to pay whatever that is to have what you want. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Covered?
Yeah.
All right, babes. Okay, here we go. Ready for some new nuggets?
Yes.
Okay.
Hold
Okay.
on.
Oh, and you know what I'm realizing? I wanted to pull up something for us today. That's all right. I can still whip it out. All right, let's talk about operating systems. Let's talk about operating systems. It seems to be the obvious thing that no one really needs to talk about. We need to talk about it. What do you guys know is a running definition of operating systems? What's your definition of operating system?
Your default mode,
Okay, default of what?
action.
Okay,
It's like the way
pattern. Okay, what else?
you process.
Well, you process what?
The way you process what's coming in and then how you move out in the world.
Okay, anybody else?
You talk about personal. When I think about operating system, I think about business.
Okay, what about it?
I know one thing is that what I'm finding out, you cannot be successful in business if you don't have an operating system in place. A strategy on how you're going to do what you're going to do systematically. And you tweak whatever you have to tweak and find what works for you and for your business and work it together with your business, with your partners, with whoever. But it's a systematic strategic system that works.
Okay, yeah, okay, so that's a shared title. The operating system I'm referring to, Sharon, is what we learned in P3 in practice, not P3, the third chapter of leadership, where we took a quiz to reveal our operating system: controller, promoter, supporter, analyzer. Okay, so what's your definition of that?
That you have to know where you're operating from. You have to just not know where you're operating from, but even people that you're engaged with.
Yeah.
What the system is. This way it helps with communication, it helps with relationship. It just helps on every level when you have an understanding of what operating system you operate from. And then when another person operates from a different operating system, you have to bear that in mind, especially with communication.
Yeah. And so why do you have to bear it in mind? Why do you have to bear?
Because everybody's not a promoter supporter.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Everybody's not people might be a controller. And once you do that operating system, you know how to engage them in terms of, I have some controllers and I'm long-winded. They just want direct to the point. Give me the juice, give me the point, make a point. When you're dealing with somebody else, it might be a motorsport. It's different. The modus of communication, it is totally different. And sometimes it'll irritate you and irk you. Well, I want to say you got to cater to that person's needs or serve that person's needs. If you don't, you're going to lose them. So that's what I'm learning with the operating styles. It's very important, very key to know not just yourself, but who you're dealing with, and be ready to be inflexible if you need to be inflexible to get that communication at the level to be.
Okay, so communication stands out for you about operating systems and are interrelating with others. Okay, good. Anybody else? What do operating systems mean to you?
What I think of it is the coping mechanisms that we chose or learned early in life. So it's like our default settings for how to cope and like how to respond to life.
How to cope. Okay.
Yeah, that comes up.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, maybe it's a bit of when our contract is the who and the operating system is the how.
Interesting. Fascinating. You guys are fascinating and creative. I love it. Anything else come to mind for you around operating systems? Okay. Anybody not get operating systems where you're like, I know what you're talking about, Gina, but it wasn't really like a tool that I utilized a lot in training. Sherry?
I found it very helpful for me. What I would like is like how to deal with others, right? Like in an enrollment conversation, or like where the other person's coming from and how to fit their needs. That's where I don't have enough now. I don't feel
that was a biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Okay. That's why we're here. We get to understand ourselves and the way we communicate. We get to creatively communicate in a connected way with the people we care about. And we get to use it with enrollment because life's an enrollment game. So the 4 operating systems that we used in our training were promoter, supporter, analyzer, and controller. It's clockwise from top left all the way around. Yeah, just those 4. One of the most succinct ways I ever heard
Controller.
it. That's right, baby. Get me to the point. Was from Lisa, also a controller. And Lisa described the operating systems as the whole world has an operating system. And if you only operate from your quadrant, you are effectively communicating with 25% of the population, which is what you're saying, Sherry. Like, how do I use it with somebody else's operating system? Like, how do I meet them where they're at? So the operating systems are the operating systems, and we all default, I think that was the word you used, Nikki, we all default to one quadrant, but only until we're in our leadership. The objective with these quadrants is to, after we have awareness, to move ourselves to the middle of the grid. So my belief and my experience is that the longer someone's in leadership, the less able you are to identify their operating system, because they flex between them so fluidly that you're not really sure where their home base is. And that's our objective. My opinion is that's our objective. We get to flex to the middle of the grid. And when we do that, and when we know that that's the objective, we stop saying things like, well, you know, controllers. Stop freaking doing that, you guys. That judgment bullshit it's shorthanded. You know how supporters are. Oh, you know, that's just her promoter. I mean, in a conversation, I get it as we're identifying awarenesses. I am all for that. But we want to really stop the conversation as if it's a fixed position that their operating system limits them in some way. Or, well, it's just my supporter. That's why I don't really speak up. Baloney. You don't speak up because you have other rackets running, right? Because true leadership is we don't have one fixed operating system. We're in the grid, in the middle, headed towards the middle. All signs point to the hub of the wheel. Does that make sense? You guys are resonating with that? Okay, great. So how many of you are clear about your operating system? You've identified it, you know what it is, sort of, everybody. Okay, great. So for those of you who've identified your operating system, have you also identified that you've shifted in the grid? Yeah. What caused the shift? What caused you to shift in the grid?
Awareness.
Okay, beautiful. Vision?
Being more committed to my vision than staying the same, basically.
Okay, great. Sherry?
I would say 2, awareness, and then realizing what I'm trying to avoid. And so stepping into what's uncomfortable.
Okay, so courageous. Okay. Who else has shifted and what caused the shift?
I shifted, and I am shifting because I get to respond and communicate with more than 25% of the world.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Anyone else?
I'm shifting because I realize being stuck in one mode of operating is not working. And because of relationships.
Say more about that, Sharon. What about relationships?
I want to be able, first of all, also adding a word to my contract, connected. And that's what I want to work on, my connection with people, my connection in relationships, my connections in enrolling. And I realize that in order to do that, I have to not just be aware of my operating style, but other people's operating style, and be able to shift or work on being able to shift to get to really say that middle point of the quadrant. So that I'm reaching 100%. And that's a work in progress.
Okay, cool. By the way, guys, we can always add a way of being as our focal point and intention for the day without having to distort the contract.
Oh, okay.
Yep. You can always add, always of being start in your contract. So you have access to all of them. You're never without by choosing to be your contract. Okay. Anybody else made a shift in your operating system and can identify the why or the how behind that? Julie, did you share?
No, I didn't share. I don't know if I shifted, but I noticed myself like showing up in different ways. I think it's a mirroring thing, you know, like, and I think it works better when I'm not thinking about it, when I'm just interacting with someone and somehow, you know, I'm kind of adjusting and like responding to them in a way that is more that is like closer to their style, but it's not conscious, you know, like in hindsight I realized that. And probably if I'm thinking about it, I'm like, let's say with a I don't want to say an agenda, but like, you know, let's say like, you know, when we are practicing style flexing or stuff like that, and it doesn't work, somehow it doesn't seem to be working as well, or like maybe like the mind is getting in the way. But I've noticed that it's like, you know, when it happens naturally, you know, it works well. But thinking about it for a purpose, like or in a sales conversation or some enrollment conversation and stuff, somehow it's not the same.
So what is it that does work, Julie, when it's natural, as you described it? When it's happening naturally, what's happening?
I think it's like natural mirroring, when you're getting on well, when you're like listening and when you're attentive and kind of connected with someone, and yeah, I have a friend who's probably more on the controlling style, but I find myself I feel comfortable being more of a controller when I'm interacting with her somehow. Same, with promoters, because they're maybe it's just kind of being in that energy, and so then it's so it makes me think that if it works like that so easily, then what about not trying to just in order to make it work, that is not a conscious or an analytical thing that I get to be I get to bring my controller with this person, is just to focus on being connected with the person and let it happen naturally. Also, thanks for the question, but
yeah, of course. Oh, I like to be provocative in that way. Yeah, there's a difference. Hang on one second, Sharon. There's a difference between being your beingness and present to what's in front of you and using your tools as they are needed to be where you get to be, to go where you're going, and thinking about what you should be doing and saying and how to do it. There's a big difference in that. Which operating system would be most likely, but it's not reserved for only one, but which operating system would be most likely to think about what they're doing rather than be what they're being?
Analyzers.
Analyzer.
Yeah, not reserved for analyzers though. I used to do it too. Analyzers not my shining star, believe me. So any operating system could do it. The reason why we bring up questions like this is so that we can gain that awareness. Am I speaking to someone who's an analyzer right now? Not who is an analyzer. So, okay, Sherry. So I want to be really thoughtful about our language around this too. We're not labeling people. She's a controller. He's an analyzer, right? That's a fixed statement. That's a contract statement. That's an I am statement. That's fixed. That prevents them from flexing to the middle. It also prevents you from flexing to the middle while you're stuck in your judgment, right? So we want to be really thoughtful about labeling people. These are not things we say, I'm a loving, connected, courageous woman, I'm a controller. That's not how we roll with this tool. That's not it's not even what our objective is. Our objective is to flex to the middle. Again, I've said it before, and float between them so seamlessly that someone else might not be able to identify our operating system at first blush or second or third blush. That's where we're really headed. So we don't really want to be in a fixed position about it in our thinking or in our labeling or even in our identifying with it. So be thoughtful about that, okay? The other thing about operating systems, do you guys understand why we have two? Why do we say she's a supporting analyzer or he's a promoting controller? Why do we say that? Do you guys understand it?
Well, it's the two most to mitigate, and to take stock of the two most prominent. So,
right. Yeah. Right. From a brass tacks perspective, it's the two operating systems that you scored the highest on your quiz when you took it the first time or the second time.
What is it that said from the brass? What is it?
It was slang, Julie.
Okay.
I thought about it just before I said it. It's freaking slang. I said brass tacks, meaning the thing that sticks, the final line of it. Don't even worry about that. Don't dismiss.
No, it's great. I'm learning new stuff. That's cool.
I wouldn't boast about that one, but anyway, I have better. Please let me. Okay. So
I remember we did a test.
Yes, exactly.
In the beginning of our class. Thank you.
Yeah, and every time we staff, we take the test again. And you could also take the test again if you wanted to at any time. It's interesting to listen to the trainers talk about that test because Michael's positive that we take the test right after all of our stuff is cleaned out, like immediately after stretch night. We're like pure as the driven snow. And that's when we take the operating system test. And Lynn and Lisa are like, that's not when you take it. That's what you want to be. That's what you wish you were on stretch night, but that's not who you really are. And I actually understand the differences in their approach and why they both, by both parties see it slightly differently. And I'm not really connected to which time is the right time to take the test, because the point is we should all be scoring equal numbers across the board on all days of the week. So that's why I don't really care when we were given the test. It's not like it was wrong. The idea is like, if you have 54 of something and 23 of another thing, you get to shift, you get to start flexing your operating systems, no matter what day of the week that was, right? So it's just interesting that there's that perspective of how are we really showing up, and are we in command of how we're showing up? Or was it just circumstance that allowed me to show up as a promoter, but actually I'm an uptight analyzer. I just want to be free and open like a promoter, but really I'm sort of like angsty in my thoughts, right? And that's just the comparison between promoter and analyzer. Okay, do you guys understand about how on the grid that your operating system, primary system as it's scored, and your secondary system as it's scored could only be in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction, that there is no cross gridding? There's not truly such a thing as a promoting analyzer, for example, or a controlling supporter. Those are
I get curious about that when I hear someone say, most often you'll hear like an analyzing promoter, and I'm like people will say that's their system. But so I'm curious to hear more, like, yeah, because I get why they go side by side or diagonal, but I'm curious what happens when someone comes up with analyzing promoter.
okay. So as we are working our way around the grid, either clockwise or counterclockwise, and we haven't talked about each of the operating systems in depth yet, but we're going to. Do you guys, from your knowledge about each of them, do you recognize that all four are different, like very different from each other? Okay, great. And do you remember, I'm getting you the answer to your question, Nikki. Do you also get, you guys, that the diagonals on the grid were identified as the core desire of its diagonal opposite? That the analyzer, who's sort of conservative and uptight, really wants to be an open, free, playful promoter? Do you guys get that? Okay, so to answer your question, Nikki, the way I was to understand it is, if my two primary numbers, the very first time I ever took the quiz, or if that's what I identify as, were diagonally opposite each other and the other two weren't developed, then that would indicate that I'm balanced in those two. So they couldn't show up as the top two. There would be a secondary that was distinctively different. So let's put it this way. I'll explain it a different way. If I quizzed first as a supporting analyzer, and then I flexed, and my supporter and my analyzer became very close in number, like 1 apart or the same number, and my controller then developed into being almost the same number, then that would mean that I've flexed and I'm starting to really blend three primary styles, which wouldn't make me then a supporting controller. It would make me a supporting analyzer who's now flexing into controller and starting to make my way through a balanced grid. Did that answer it for you? Okay, do you guys get it? Did that land?
I got to say, like, cause like when in HL31, I was not aware of that at all. And it came up a little bit in 38, but through the other coaches, not even I found in the training. And like, controlling supporter does make sense to me.
Okay, how?
It's like when you want to support in you're being assertive into how you're going to support or how you want to be supported.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that, and yes, maybe if they're like equal numbers, okay, maybe they're bringing a balance. But if they might be like separate enough that I don't know. It wasn't shocking me to. I understand what you're saying. You're like, yes, I see that it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I'm there. I don't know.
Okay, so maybe we'll come back to this after we go through each of the operating systems, and it might land a little bit differently. And the whole point is we all get to be all four. So it doesn't really matter, really, if someone says they're a controlling supporter. What matters is, are the other two numbers just as high? Are they balanced in the way that they operate, and are they operating to connect with all four quadrants, or are they still only connecting with 50% of the world, right? Okay, before we get to that type of a conversation around it, the idea of the secondary operating system really fuels the first one. right? So promoting controller, for example, the promoter, the high energy, the playfulness, and the other parts of promoter fuel the controller. So really, again, I want to drive this point home, really carefully be thoughtful about how we label people, because in all controllers get the baddest rap. Oh, she's so controlling. She's controller. First of all, those aren't the same thing. Being controlling is a racket. Controller is a way of operating. Notice, but controllers tend to get the most rap. Like most people I have issues with controller in my life or blah, blah. And I get it. I understand why. It's not a lack of compassion. But notice that whatever operating system you have had the most difficulty with, or you've heard other people have the most difficulty with, when we're labeling that particular operating system as the one that's difficult, it's very convenient to forget that they're also another operating system. We have a backup. So when people complain about controllers, they never talk about the promoter in the controller. They just complain about the controller as an example. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So just notice that that type of identifying an operating system is our racket. It's not the operating system that's ever the problem. It's how we identify with the operating system. And that's really what I want to use these tools to get under for all of us, is that when we are unclear about the operating systems, or when we're triggered by an operating system, that's really where the work is. It's not the operating system that needs to shift. It's us. It's either our awareness of it or what's underneath the trigger, just like with all the other tools too, right? Yeah, just like me too. So one of the things that I want to really highlight for us as we move through all of the operating systems is that there is a balanced version of the system, the one that creates and works and adds value. And there's an imbalanced version of the operating system, the one that usually gets the bad rap when people are complaining about it, the one that does not contribute, the one that's taking, the one that's even destroying at times. Okay, and if we are one operating system, and we all are, and if we have two, and we all do, whether we flexed or not, we have the potential to be a balanced version of that operating system or the imbalanced version of that operating system. And it's in our responsibility to know where we are and where we're operating from. Typically, when we are pointing the finger at another operating system, we're running a racket complaining about the imbalanced version of the operating system. And now we've taken the whole tool and we've made it something that we weaponize ourselves with. And that doesn't work. Make sense? You guys getting that? Okay.
And then what you said was the word trigger.
Okay.
And that's what lets me know that, okay, I need to step back. I need to relax. I need to slow down all the way down, taking what the person's saying, because that person is obviously hitting us trigger inside of me to make me react rather than to respond. So Julie was right on point. It can become a natural and second nature as you become sensitized to your own triggers, and you realize you're reacting and not responding. So you take a breath and you can breathe, and then you find yourself going down a certain rabbit hole that happens again and again and again. And it's why. It's not because it's the other person in their operating system. It's you and your racket and your triggers. That's what you need to tweak. That's what I'm finding. That's what I'm discovering. Like for instance, today, this person, they started, and I said, okay, Shannon, it's not even about you. It's not even really about them. They're unaware of whatever. But now, what are you going to do now that you're more knowledgeable and you see all the signs happening again? How are you going to respond in leadership? So you're so on point. I thank you for bringing that up. We have to learn our triggers and recognize them, identify them, and even our communication style and responding style will change.
For sure. Yep. Love it. Love it. Yep. Respond instead of react, for sure. And triggers are not, nobody triggers us. We own them. And I would take it even a step further, which might have been implied in what you shared, Sharon. Rather than stopping at the awareness of a trigger, get under it. Triggers don't have to be permanent. They don't have to go through life with us like our eye color. We can leave them behind. But you got to get under it to know what it's about, right? And typically when we're triggered and we're identifying somebody else's communication style as the trigger, it's a particular operating system that's highlighting our racket, right? Remember, under every racket's a tender spot, right? So I have a million examples. I won't get us off too far on down that rabbit hole yet. But let's first, just while we're here today, let's just identify the top few things that we understand about each operating system? Let's go around the grid for promoter, supporter, analyzer, and controller.
What got my attention is that you say we trigger ourselves and we get to the underneath of it. So we get to handle that quickly.
Exactly. Let's go there for a second before we go through all the operating systems. I've just regrouped. Thank you for letting me do that in the moment. For giving me a little space on that, Dieslina. So let's talk about that first. What are some of the ways that you have or still continue to be triggered when you're talking to someone and you think it's because of their operating system?
The tone of voice.
Okay, tone of voice. And so what operating system do you think would have a tone of voice that offers you a reminder of your trigger?
Controller, analyzer, or analyzer, controller.
Okay, what's the difference in their two tones?
The first one triggers my racket. It can get back to my childhood and my mother.
Which one takes you back to your childhood?
The controller, because I get the impression they're talking down too. And they're also talking forcefully and also have an unrealistic expectation in their mind. And they're also judging. So all of this comes up with a controlling person.
Controlling person or a controller operator?
Controlling operator.
Controller
not with all.
Okay.
Specific individuals. So I realize there's a lot of self-inner work that I have to do as a result of that. And when I mentioned my mother, in my mind, there's some childhood issues I got to go back and deal with and get under this. So it's not a constant. The other one is to analyze. And I don't really know why, but again, it's a feeling of, didn't you get it, stupid? Wait, that doesn't make no sense. Let's go back this whole thing and do it again. And they go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I said, enough. I must be the one miscommunicating and not making my points clear. So maybe revisit this when I'm clearer. You're paraphrasing everything, and that's not the point.
Yeah, analyzers struggle with paraphrasing because they're more exact, for sure. Awesome, Sharon. Thanks for going first. Who else can identify when your triggers are activated by a particular operating system?
I will say by the expression of their face. When we look at their face and we see the expression in their face.
Which operating system, Dieslina, has facial expressions that remind you of your triggers?
It will be controlling.
Okay, what's their facial expression?
Angry.
The controller operating system is identified with anger for you?
Anger, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no other operating system gets angry. It's only controllers for sure.
No. And also impatience. Okay, okay.
Yep, they move quick for sure. What else? These are great, you guys. So good.
For me, it's supporters when I can feel there's unsaid words and they're not saying the words. I get very frustrated.
Okay. Yep. Supporters tend to hold back and self-edit a lot. They can also lean into passive aggressiveness because they want you to read their mind because of that. And again, these are imbalanced. Everything we're talking about here is almost everything we've mentioned, not all, but almost everything we've mentioned is an imbalanced version of an operating system. Anybody else have a particular trigger around an operating system? Sherry, I feel like it's going to be good.
What really comes up for me is like a huge flare is my son, because everyone tells us we're blind, they tell us we're so alike. And so it's feeling like that competitiveness and getting triggered by the other person because we're coming with the same energy and it's controlment energy. Because one wants to dominate. And I did not realize this till we went through the rackets, and it was so eye-opening.
Okay, so interesting. You said controlment and domination. Is that an operating system or a racket?
It's a racket, but it comes through the controller.
Does it?
I don't know. It seems like it. But even though, other people, of course, everyone can run the racket, but I just feel like that comes up for me with the controller is feeling controlled, and that triggers me.
And again, I'm really glad you brought that up, Sherry, because this one comes up a lot. Controlling is not controller. Controlment is not controller. Think about it like this. When we talked about the victim racket, you could also run a domination racket around your victimhood and dominate all the attention of everyone in the room by being really fixed on your victim racket. What's the operating system that's most likely to run a victim racket? They're all capable of it, but what's the one operating system, the energy that whines a lot?
Supporter.
Supporter, promoter can a little for sure. So it's most likely, we all are capable of it, but it's most likely a imbalanced supporter energy that would run a victim racket, and they can dominate all the focus. But interesting, we don't think that supporters can be controlment, station, and dominators. We don't assign that racket to that operating system. We assign it to controller. That's exactly the point I'm trying to bring up here, right? Like we tend to fixate on the imbalanced operating system, but really what we're talking about is a racket. So we miss our opportunity to connect with each other and communicate freely and effectively when really what we're working with are rackets, our own usually. And we're calling it an operating system where we're missing the point. We're missing the juice, the goodness that's in that operating system, which, by the way, we're all flexing to if we're in our leadership. So do you see how we would be adverse to stepping into our controller if we have all of this aggressive, hostile, demeaning energy that we associate with it, when none of that is the actual operating system? That's all racket. Yeah, that's why it's really easy to peg controllers, because nobody likes that, right? But it's not controller, that's racket land. Okay, these are so good. Let's do a couple more. Any other triggers that you recognize from a particular operating system?
The scatteredness, saying they're going to do something and then they don't do something, jumping in without really thinking about the consequences, and then pointing fingers when the consequences like that. Whew.
Yeah,
I stretch into.
I know that operating system. Which one is that, Lori?
Promoter.
Yeah. And why does it remind you of your trigger? What comes up for you when they're scattered and unreliable?
Because then racket, I suspect that I need to fix it. They've just caused all this chaos, and then walk away. Then I'm here, total racket. I recognize that. I get to this up again. I get to do, you know what I mean? And then I'm in victim.
Right, interesting. And each of the operating systems can identify the same imbalanced promoter energy from a different lens, right? So a controller with that kind of scattered promoter energy would judge them.
The controller would judge the promoter?
The imbalanced promoter energy. The controller would judge them and be like, get out of my way. I have no use for this.
Right.
Dismissive, right? An analyzer would take that same imbalanced promoter energy and get really dark about it. You would erode their trust, and it would be seethingly painful for them. Anytime we break our word, we erode our trust with ourselves first and then everyone around us. That doesn't have to be promoter energy that would erode trust, but an imbalanced promoter operating system, when they show up imbalanced, the other operating systems respond differently. But none of it's favorable. None of the imbalanced operating systems have a favorable response, by the way. We get to flex into the healthy version of each of them. And then, as you mentioned, Lori, your supporter jumps in with, now I have to do it all, because supporters like to default into woe is me, right? Where a controller would be the same amount of dismissiveness, different energy response, right? Yeah, good. Okay, Sherry?
Yes, when Lori was talking, I thought it was the analyzer speaking. That's why this is helpful.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's both. My analyzer definitely is we could have done it this way and this way. That I go there, and then my supporter, and they flip flop back and forth between, now I got to clean this up, and I could have done it. They're real. They roll right at each other racket. They're hand in hand.
So you heard it, Jerry. That's awesome. You heard both of them in Lori's response.
Right. I didn't hear it as how the supporter is feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's good to hear it.
Yeah, it was a very lovely blend, Lori, of your operating systems in response. So yeah, the imbalanced promoter. That's great. Sharon?
Where can we go to read more about these operating systems?
Yeah, well, whatever material you got from your training, you can definitely review that. And we are going to take a deep dive into all of them in the next few weeks. This was our good tee up, ready to go. You're going to have tons of notes by the time we're done, if you don't have them already. Okay.
Remember, we couldn't take notes. We weren't allowed to take notes.
No, but you were given a handout, and you could take notes in practice for a whole month. Practice was more than a month. Practice is where we were using our operating systems. Every Monday with Michael, you could take notes. And that's where we worked on it. We didn't have operating systems before note-taking time.
Okay.
Nice racket, though.
I lost that. No, I lost out. I tuned out.
Okay. Yeah. You are responsible. I bet you have more notes than you remember, Sharon, but either way, that's why we're going over it, because we all get to be really fresh and crisp and clean on our operating systems, how we operate, where we're imbalanced, whether we're running rackets or it's actually an operating system, and then how do we connect with other people? Because that's the intention of the operating systems, is to be able to communicate effectively with 100% of the population, instead of just asking them to understand us in our way, which can really kind of blow people over. You ready for that, Sharon?
Yes, I am.
All right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen. We just have a minute and a half left. I would love to hear a digestion from each of you, a nugget. We were covering a lot of territory today, and I recognize I put a wrench in the plan. So I wanna make sure that you're walking away with good nuggets for today.
Another one, we put a wrench in the what? There are 2 nuggets, the brass tacks and the wrench in the whatever.
Wrench in the plan.
The plan. Oh, okay.
And then that. And then I did that a few times too. So would you be willing to round robin digest? What's your takeaway from today?
My takeaway is our operating system is not fixed. We are really evolving towards that midpoint. So
yeah, beautiful. Who's next?
To me, it's just so helpful to see each one of you. And so, because each person brings a different energy. And so it's like, it's learning. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. Community fosters learning. Thank you. Who's next?
Oh, go ahead.
I like the balanced parts of each operating system and the imbalanced.
Great.
So for me, is that when I'm operating out of one system only, I'm effectively communicating with 25% of my audience only.
Yeah, that's straight up Lisa. Yep, it's great. Thanks. Who's next?
For me, I'm intrigued by how each operating system is judging, has a different reaction to each other imbalanced operating system. I'm curious about that. Something I hadn't pushed the reasoning so far.
Okay, loves. Thank you for digesting. I will see you guys next week. Bring all of your notes if you have them, or all of your openness and pen and paper if you want new notes. And we will go over operating systems from start to finish next week. Good? Okay, loves. Thank you all. See you guys.
Thank you, Gina.
Thanks to everybody.